views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm the Dr. Bob Lee. Welcome to Open BxRx, our special coverage of COVID-19 and current events in our community and beyond. We got a whole lot in store for you. Coming up on today's show, we'll be discussing mental health, stigma surrounding it, and what one organization is doing to offer help. Plus, we'll check out what one organization and group is doing with a goal to spread healthy eating in and around our city and in our schools. Then we'll hear about a food distribution and how people around the 5 boroughs in need can receive help. After that, the Executive Director of Community Voices Heard, they join us for a look at their work in housing, social justice, and more. Then Bobby C has the latest in the world of sports, and then later on, we'll preview a film presenting economic history, politics, and more. Stay tuned. All this is headed your way because we are definitely open. Welcome back, everybody. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee, and our next guest is the founder and CEO of Black Men Heal. Join us today to share more about their work, and we welcome Tasnim Sulaiman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Good morning. Tell us about all of this wonderful stuff that you're doing in our wonderful community.
Yes, I love talking about Black Men Heal because it's amazing, and I'm not just saying it because I'm a part of it. I am so honored and so blessed to be a vessel to bring something that is this important for our community to us. So Black Men Heal is a nonprofit organization that I started in July 2018. I started it as a solution to the question, why aren't more Black men going to therapy? I myself, I'm a licensed therapist and I'm in private practice. And so for years, I've seen many people come into therapy. I work with couples relationships, but I just did not feel that I was getting enough Black men. I had a very diverse practice. I would get men of other races, but it was always a very limited amount of Black men.
Why is that?
Well, the main 3 reasons that our organization, what we do, we focus on 3 of the main barriers. So I did some research, and so there's many different reasons. Access and opportunity is a big one. Health disparities exist on the mental health side as well. Is also right? Structural, systemic racism. We could talk about a ton of reasons, but our program specifically focused on 3 of those main barriers of why Black men might not go to therapy. One is cost. It's very expensive to see a therapist. It was over $100 a session. So everybody might not be able to have that. You might not have health insurance. So our program, we eliminate costs. We give men 8 free sessions. It's like a jump start. So we say we jump start their healing journey. We give them 8 free sessions. Another reason was the lack of cultural competency. So if you do have insurance, for example, you might call a number on the back of your insurance card. 9 out of 10 times you're going to get a list of people who don't look anything like you. So another reason was cited was that Black men wanted to feel as though anybody would want to feel like you go to therapy and you don't have to explain what it's like to be a person of color in America, right? Like that you don't have to spend your time educating somebody on that or getting them to understand it or to feel non-judged and to feel warm, safe. So what we do is we recruit therapists of color to give the sessions to the men, to give the free sessions to the men. So we ask therapists of color, if anybody's watching this, to give 1 hour a week within your schedule. We all have very, very busy schedules if you're a therapist, but to devote 1 hour a week to this mission to make space for one of the men. And then the third—
when you talk about, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, the third thing that we eliminate for men is the stigma. So there's
there you go. That's what I was going to ask you about.
That one is, we talk about
the pronoun stigma.
Absolutely. within our own communities as well. So the idea of mental illness being no one wants to feel pathologized, right? And people of color, we come from backgrounds where honestly, our pains and our hurts have often been mislabeled as strengths. We've been through so much trauma, so many layers of pain and so many layers of hurt, but we're so resilient that often Black pain is misconstrued for Black strength, right? So this stigma, if you go and ask somebody for help, it feels like you're not being strong. And that especially so for men when it comes to masculinity. So those are the three things that we eliminate in our program. By eliminating those barriers, we are opening up this space and just targeting men of color specifically. So we're saying, hey, you're invited to a party and you get in for free. You get VIP treatment, King. We love and uplift our men, and it's really working
Right.
very well.
Well, what do you tell people who need mental health, but they feel like, I don't need to go to the doctor? Because people talk about it all the time. You need to get some help. No, I don't need any help. I got this. I'm okay. I'm okay. But then that coupled with the stigma, they just stay and just absorb everything themselves. How do you reach out to them to get them to come to see a person like you?
So what we do is we focused on using the men that we service. They become mental health advocates within themselves. So as opposed to me, the therapist, or being another woman telling a Black man what he needs to do, that's not what this program is at all. The men that come through our program, they transform and evolve. We actually ask them to go into their own communities and start conversation. When you're in the barbershop, just start a conversation about mental health and the importance of it. Talk about something other than sports, or cars or women. Talk about things that you're really struggling with. Our slogan is healed men, heal men. So what we're seeing is that Black men are more likely to listen to somebody who's within their peer group, for one, and someone who looks like them, a man who's been through similar experiences. So we ask our men, go share it with your homies, your cousin, your brothers, your sons, and they will listen more to you than they will to us. So we really look for men who are ready. We don't, because it's free, we make sure that the men are understanding the value. This is a value of about $1,000 that we are donating to men. And it's a labor of love. We want to make sure that we get men who are ready to commit to that process.
So you say that men are suffering in silence because of the fears that being vulnerable goes against masculinity.
Absolutely.
Explain that.
Yeah, so men have that extra mask. They're raised. This comes from our conditioning. I mean, we could go all the way back into the days of slavery and look at the just the generational impacts of all of that, right? But specifically when it comes to men, there's this very false idea that showing emotion and showing your feelings is non-masculine, that it's a sign of weakness, which it is not. I just want to say, because being vulnerable, if anybody's ever had to do it or try it, it's terrifying. It's scary. It comes with a risk. So it actually takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. It's not a weakness, but the idea that feelings, like think about little boys when they, we start conditioning boys when they're younger. If you have a 2-3-year-old little boy that falls down and gets a cut, he might get a message of like, you okay? If he comes and cries and wants some, TLC from mom or dad. Whereas little girls will get nurtured, right? We don't nurture boys up the way that we do girls. And that's a problem within itself, because what we've realized from doing Black Men Heal is not just Black men who are conditioned about this masculinity ideal. Black women and women are just as conditioned about this ideal of what masculinity should be. So we have discovered that as well.
So who knows if they need help from you? Who do you reach out to? How does one tell that they need help? What are the symptoms?
So that's a good question. Well, we get men who, a lot of our men, we started this whole mission and this whole movement from Instagram, from social media, is we put out the call, free therapy. We thought it would be hard to get men. It was not. It is not. We are flooded with men who want the free sessions. So we just started creating campaigns and content around what are men dealing with? So we might create content about depression and how it looks different in men. So a man who's following us on social media might be reading that and be like, hey, that resonates, something connects, that sounds familiar. I am feeling more aggressive. I am feeling more irritable, which, by the way, men's symptoms of depression look different. So they might not recognize that it is depression. So we do a lot of psychoeducating through our content. Like, we speak directly to men. And
do you think due to COVID-19, this pandemic, that more men are suffering from depression and other symptoms associated with mental health, PTSD?
We have received a huge influx of applications from men since COVID and since the George Floyd murders and the race riots. There's been a huge influx of men who are now citing they just lost a family member from COVID. You're seeing the direct things that are the impacts from what we're dealing with, that they lost people, so grief and loss, PTSD, that, ever since the George Floyd murders, their increase in the hypervigilance. So they may not describe things as clinical as PTSD or depression. They describe symptoms. Clients describe symptoms. I'm having a difficult time sleeping.
And then you can figure it out after they tell you what they're going through.
Look at the applications, and then we're able to pair them up specifically based off what their specific needs are, and pair them with the right therapist who can help them with their needs, who's also within their own communities, within like 10 miles of them. So we use a very extensive matching system, like a dating system, like Match.com. We put a lot of heavy emphasis on making sure the therapeutic relationship is going to be perfect, because that is the biggest indicator of whether therapy will be effective or not, is the relationship.
Yeah. Well, Tasnim, we need your help.
Yes, and
I know there's a lot of people in our community that are not reaching out.
Yeah.
So you have to find a way to reach out to them, and of course we'll help you. We're going to get the word out. That's what we do here at the BronxNet. Do you have a website that you can display or talk about and send people to?
Absolutely. So you can follow us on social at Black Men Heal, or you can go to our website, www.blackmenheal.org. You can sign up for our next cohort of men. We'll be starting for individual therapy. We'll be starting in September, October. We have expanded to the New York area, which is great. We need more New York providers. Any clinicians who see this, we need more New York providers. We have a lot of New York men applying. We service right now Jersey, PA, New Jersey, and Delaware. But if you're in another state, you can sign up for our weekly virtual groups, which are amazing, called King's Corner. You can sign up anywhere within the world. Every week we have a different mental health topic applicable to men's mental health needs.
Tasnim Sulaiman, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
She's the founder and CEO of Black Men Heal. Heal, 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 heal. And what did you say? Healers heal?
Heal men, yes.
Healed men, heal men.
Absolutely, yes.
There you go. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe, be blessed.
Bye.
All right, we'll take a break right here. We've got more coming up next on Open. Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is the Executive Director of Edible Schoolyards, NYC. They join us today for information about their work. We welcome Kate Brashares. Edible Schoolyards, how did you come up with the name?
So the program was actually started out in California, 20 plus years ago by the chef and restaurateur Alice Waters, and she came up with the name. She worked with a school in Berkeley, California that had a very rundown rundown garden, and she had this vision of turning schoolyard into an edible schoolyard. So the name came from California. Obviously here in New York, we have a little less space than they do there, but it's still a really apt and wonderful name for what we do, which is teaching kids about food in schools through hands-on cooking and gardening education.
That's great. And you've been doing this for how long now?
In New York, this is our 10-year anniversary this year. So it's kind of a funny year to be celebrating our 10-year anniversary. But we've been here in New York for about 10 years,
And what are some of the foods that you grow? And what do students learn?
Oh, so many different foods. We really try and be, in what we're growing in our gardens, we try and, obviously we grow the basics, tomatoes and cucumbers and all those kinds of things. But we also really try and be culturally responsive to the communities in which we are. So what we're growing at one school might actually look a little different from another school, sort of based on the community of the school around it and based on what students are interested in. So, we grow, I think, over 60 different kinds of fruits and vegetables in our schoolyards.
The next time go ahead. The next time we speak, maybe you could whip up one of those salads over there next to you.
I sure will. We can do a cooking demonstration next time.
Yeah,
One of our
sounds
amazing,
like an alkaline diet there. Cucumbers and things like that.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So, our program is, if you spoke to me a year ago, I would probably have, 6 months ago, pre-mid-March, we would be having a different conversation. The idea behind our programming is that hands-on learning, experiential learning through doing is just such an important part of learning.
So that has changed right now due to the pandemic?
We are, since mid-March, we have been all remote. Having said that, we still have, it's the summer now, obviously. We have our staff are working in the gardens. So we've really been thinking about, our gardens have always been kind of educational spaces, and really we think of them as outdoor classrooms.
So you can still grow the minds of our youngsters.
Exactly. But what we're focusing on now is, over the summer, has been production. So really thinking about food access, how we can, in whatever limited way we can, support our local communities. So we're doing still keeping the gardens growing, and we hope to be back in the fall. At the moment, New York City schools are still planning to open. They're the only large school district in the country that is, as of this moment, still planning to reopen in a hybrid model. So our hope is that we will be working with kids in person again, in a very safe way for our staff and our students, but supporting the schools who will truly need a lot of support. There's been a lot of trauma in the communities that we work with, and we think that our kinds of hands-on experiential programming and the incredible caring staff that we have will really just be a great support for our schools and our communities. And we have the great advantage of having outdoor space and knowing how to program in outdoor space. There has been, a tremendous amount of focus on how to use outdoor space for learning, and a lot of movement in New York to, close city streets to really think about how we can use outdoor space. And we have these outdoor spaces and these teachers who are used to working outdoor with kids. So we're really, it's a silver lining, I think, of this truly horrible situation, that we think that we can really kind of work with that.
So you have planted, now it's harvest time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're harvesting, what are we harvesting at the moment? We've been harvesting lettuces, we're starting with cucumbers, tomatoes, starting to plant fall crops now. We've harvested masses of garlic recently that now needs to dry and cure. So, lots and lots of things are being harvested, and hopefully when students do come back, the gardens will just be beautiful places of abundance. We also think about these as just healing and positive spaces as well. We have, we plant flowers, we want to make the gardens beautiful. We both for the environment, for pollinators, but also for our communities to to be places of healing and learning, and just to really engage students as well. So we're excited about that too.
Are you the one with the green thumb?
No. I try, but I am not. I mean, I have a little garden at home here, but we have an incredible staff who are, there in the gardens at the moment and in our schools. Miriam is our garden manager, and she kind of runs the show in terms of making sure that everything is, producing beautifully and healthy, and she really does an amazing job of that.
Would you like to say hello to some of the members of your staff? Or
I
people
would.
Volunteering?
Yeah, so Miriam really she runs our garden program, and she's just doing a phenomenal job and just cares so deeply about these outdoor spaces. And then we have an incredible staff who are we're starting to think about the fall and what that looks like. Our staff are mostly off for the summer, but
well, we'll wave a hand to all of them. Thank you guys for participating.
They're amazing. They really are amazing. We also work with an incredible organization called Food Corps, which is an AmeriCorps program. And our Food Corps, we have 5 Food Corps service members who, they're volunteers. It's a year of service, like Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, and they just started, so they're starting to get stuck in.
Now, how are you funded? Do you need help from the community? How are you funded?
Yes, always.
Corporate help, grants.
Yeah, so we're almost entirely philanthropically funded. We get a little bit of funding from our schools, but we really rely on grants, individuals. In the past, we've done a lot of events. That is changing now. Certainly the way that we're doing events is changing. But yes, we are always looking for funding and support and to keep our programs going. And particularly, I think at this time, it's, school, we're worried about school budgets. We think school budgets are going to be cut dramatically over the coming year. And so these type of enrichment programs and support that we give our schools and our students, particularly in high needs communities, is just so important. So how do they
get the funds to you? You have a website?
Yeah, we do. So our website is www.edibleschoolyardnyc.org. We also have an Instagram, which is ESYNYC, just the letters, Edible Schoolyard NYC. And so please do follow us on Instagram. If you go to our website, you can sign up for our newsletter to find out more. We also do a lot of professional development as well. So we do, and we're doing that remotely now. So we're doing sessions on how to work with kids outdoors, how to do cooking lessons remotely. So if anyone's interested in learning more, our website, you can sign up to learn more about professional development. There's also a great resource section on our website that has a lot of lessons and resources that anyone can use.
And the website again is?
edibleschoolyardnyc.org.
Kate, thank you so much. Kate Brashares, Executive Director, Edible Schoolyard NYC. She's working with the New York City Public Schools. Thank you so much and appreciate you. Thanks for working with our youngsters.
Thank you so much.
All right, stay safe. God bless.
You too. Thank you.
All right. We'll take a break. I've got a whole lot more in store for you next on Open. welcome back, everybody. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee, and our next guest is from God's Love We Deliver. We deliver, we deliver. And he joins us today to discuss their work in our community. We welcome Emmett Finley to the show. Finley, I hear that you're on a mission. What is your mission?
Well, God's Love We Deliver, we have been, since 1985, we've been cooking and home delivering medically tailored meals to individuals living with severe and chronic illness. So when we started in 1985, we were serving individuals living with and primarily dying from HIV/AIDS. And today we serve over 200 individual diagnoses, and we serve to over 9,300 people a year. We bring them food, we bring them love, and we bring them a lot of care from their community.
That's big. We can never forget you when you're feeding someone. You can
right.
feel that right in the heart and in your stomach. Right. How has the pandemic changed what you're doing?
Sure. COVID-19 has literally changed every aspect of God's Love We Deliver. Obviously, we have implemented all of the safety measures that everyone has, from masks to no contact deliveries and more. But really, at the heart of it, we were an essential services provider right away. And so we've been working throughout the pandemic. But you can imagine that because we cook and home deliver these delicious and medically tailored meals for really the most vulnerable people in New York City, right? People who already have underlying health conditions, who are the most susceptible to COVID-19. You can imagine that our client base has grown, astronomically in the last few months. In fact, we've brought over 2,500 individuals onto programs since March. So what all of this means is that we are producing more meals than ever, but with fewer volunteers, because we've got to, work with social distancing measures and all of that. So we've increased our meals, worked with fewer volunteers, and sort of changed all of the different parts of our production. But no matter what, we've been on the road. We haven't missed a single delivery day. And we're really thrilled to continue this really life-saving work.
This is great. And you've been doing this since the 80s, you said.
That's right.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Is that the warehouse in the background?
This would be the God's Love We Deliver building. We're in Soho in Manhattan. That's where our headquarters are. We actually serve to all 5 boroughs of the city, the top of the Bronx, the bottom of Staten Island, and everywhere in between. And we also serve to Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk counties, and Hudson County, New Jersey.
How does one get supported? I mean, if they need food, or a family needs food, or area or community center, or how do they reach out to you? Yeah,
so we like to think we make it a really easy process. Asking for help is really difficult, and when you need such an essential service such as meals delivered right to you, we want to eliminate red tape. The only qualifier to be on our program is that you are too sick to shop or cook for yourself. So as soon as someone gives us a call and they say they need our meals, they speak to a client services representative who goes over an intake process, and then a registered dietitian nutritionist actually gets on the phone with them and designs their menu, their meals right for them.
Pinpoints exactly what they need nutritiously to help them out.
Right. And those meals are designed based on the person's illness and their treatments, right? All their medicines, but what's one of the things that I sort of find very astonishing or illuminating is that the majority of our clients are living with not one diagnosis, but 4 or more. So that means they're living. Yeah, exactly. So we have to make sure that our meals can be designed right for them based on all their different illnesses, their different treatments, and their preferences. Because we want to make sure that
meals,
exactly. We want to make sure that vegetarians get exactly what they need. But we can also design our meals based on texture. So if people have trouble chewing or swallowing, we can mince or puree their meals as well. So tailoring every meal is the critical component. It's what really sets us apart from other food providers. And it's what, makes our meals as delicious and nutritious as they need to be.
I love it. Any success stories?
I mean, I have the great fortune of getting to speak to clients all the time. I spoke to a client last week who said that God's Love We Deliver has literally saved their life.
The blessing.
Exactly. And, you know, we hear from family members as well who may be living far away, or due to the pandemic, they can't go visit their loved one anymore for safety measures. And so God's love is the one delivering to them, and is often the only person that they see that day or that week. And the family member recognizes how much care that is that's brought with every meal. So we really hear from everybody that God's love has been sort of the most, a really crucial part of their life during COVID-19, but also, you know, before COVID-19 as well.
Yeah. Are you up on social media?
We are. You can find us on Twitter. Instagram is where it's poppin'. We're God's Love NYC on Instagram, but of course we have Facebook, and one day soon we'll get a TikTok.
There you go. Website?
godslovewedeliver.org. You can find all the information you need in order to become a client, to refer a loved one, to volunteer. We work with 17,000 volunteers a year to make our work possible. Or if you want to donate, a donation of $10 funds a nutritious meal for a New Yorker in need, and literally every dollar makes a difference.
You rock, Emmett.
We're so, you know, we're really grateful. We want everyone in the Bronx and all of New York City to know that we're here for them. You know, we understand that being sick and hungry is a crisis that no one should face. And if you need help, please give us a call.
There you go. God's Love We Deliver. Emmett Finley, Director of Communication for God's Love We Deliver. And you have delivered it well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
All right.
All right. All right, we'll take a break. I've got more. Don't go anywhere. Kick off your shoes and relax your feet. More open coming up next. And here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. Our next guest is the Executive Director of Community Voices Heard, and he joined us with a look at their work. We welcome Afua Atta-Mensah. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on today. Thank you so much.
Tell us all about it. You've been doing this for some time. How long, and what's it all about?
Well, Community Voices Heard, we are celebrating 26 years. I've been blessed to be with the organization 4 years now as the Executive Director. And we started as a welfare rights organization, almost exclusively Black and Latinx moms who were on public assistance, who had the audacity to say that they knew better what can make their lives and their communities stronger. And so they sought to make an organization that was directly accountable to membership of affected people. And so over those 26 years, we've grown from being specifically welfare rights to working on issues of truly affordable housing, access to family-sustaining jobs, immigrant justice, criminal justice, reform, and climate and equality.
Yeah, so you work in primarily New York State, right?
Yes, we are in all 5 boroughs of New York City. We're in Westchester, Orange, and Dutchess County.
All right, yeah. So the reaches are out there. And
yeah.
You're communicating the thoughts and letting people know what's going on.
Yeah, we're blessed to have a strong membership base of some bold and audacious women and men who want to fight to make their communities better.
Who are some of the people working with you?
So, you know, we're blessed to have relationships both with individuals and institutions, such as Mount Pisgah Church in Brooklyn as a member, Riverside Church, Star of Bethlehem in Ossining and Trinity, as well as members in public housing developments across New York City, in Far Rockaway, in the Bronx and Castle Hill and Edenwald, and neighborhoods all in between.
Yeah. Afua, how has the pandemic affected what you're doing today in our community?
Well, I know that folks have said, but it remains true that COVID has made clear for folks outside of working class, and I think Black and brown communities, some of the savage inequalities in our city and in our ecosystem. So since COVID, you know, we've done a lot of mutual aid, working with Black and brown restaurant owners to give out food to some of our membership and their families, working to send about 500 tablets with prepaid internet to our membership as folks have been cut off from systems that they need to gain relief. And sadly, we've lost members, and members have lost family members due to this pandemic. And every day, our membership, many of whom are essential workers, have to make that hard choice about going to work every day to put food on the table while being scared like heck that they may bring something home. So our membership, salt of the earth people who have been struggling, who have been trying to keep this city and this state going at some great harm to themselves and their families.
Well, we appreciate your service. What do you want people to know about social and economic justice?
Sure. So, we feel that the racial, social, and economic justice are the core pieces to allow this nation to be what it was heralded to be, right? That folks need to have access to strong family-sustaining jobs. Not too long ago, we celebrated that Black women were finally making how long it would take for them to earn what whites earn on average. We believe that Black women, Latinx women, immigrants, people of color generally deserve to have the same living wage, that we shouldn't be treated differently because of the color of our skin, that our families deserve to live in dignity. So it's bringing all those truths together to make this city, to make this state better for all of us.
So any current projects that you're working on right now?
Sure. I'd say the three big issues generally come under the umbrella of what would an equitable post-COVID response be? Particularly in the Bronx, we know that was the epicenter of the COVID crisis, and feel that any recovery fund should really be coming to those areas that were deeply hit. Right now, so many of our membership who have either lost work or their hours have been cut are concerned the first of every month about how they're going to be able to pay their rent and stay in their homes. So we are proud members of the Housing Justice for All Coalition and have been fighting to cancel rent for tenants who just can't afford it, to make sure that we don't have more of our membership and more people in the streets. And also we've been working with a lot of our membership who are proud residents in NYCHA developments about having conditions that are fit for folks to live in with their families, and to think through a public housing plan that allows people to thrive and live in dignity.
Well, thank you for all that you do to help, get that word out there and help get the community voices heard. It's a wonderful thing. Website, social media, give it to us.
Oh, thank you. So you can reach us at www.cvhaction.org. And that's cvhaction.org. And the same thing on our Twitter is @cvhaction. And we're just so glad to be with you today, and so proud of our membership at Community Voices Heard, who continue to be in this good fight in the Bronx and all throughout the 5 boroughs in New York City.
Afua Atta-Mensah, Executive Director, Community Voices Heard. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And God bless you. All right, stay blessed, stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us on today, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you guys.
You got it. We'll take a break. I've got more next on Open.
All right, sports fans, if you were curious about where the legend of Mickey Mantle started, I've got a book for you. Joining us here this morning is author Howard Burman to talk about his latest book, Much Dream, Making the Mick. To lead off this interview, I really wanted to ask, what made you decide to write this book now about Mickey Mantle?
I think, if we look at most people's lives in 3 acts, if you will, there's my playwright coming through again. We know the 3rd act. We know what happens to him at the end. His alcoholism and the operation and his death and all of that. We know what happened in the middle act, his great years with the Yankees. I think he was pretty good, right?
He was fantastic, yeah.
I thought he was. And, what we don't know a whole lot about is how he got there. What was the genesis of his ability and his character? Where did it all come from? Where does an extraordinary life, how did that emerge from rather ordinary beginnings? And so I was very interested in that, and the whole idea of fathers playing catch with their sons. I think that is so elemental in America. So many of us did that. I mean, my father threw patty practice to me till his arm fell off, but my career came up just a little bit short of Mickey's. It actually came up a little bit short of even making my high school team, but that's another story. But the idea of fathers playing catch with their sons is just something that has always sort of intrigued me. It's a way we communicated with our fathers. As a kid, I couldn't talk to my father about his job. I didn't know what he was doing exactly. I couldn't talk about the stock market or why Eisenhower was or wasn't a good president or any of that. But boy, we could talk about baseball. And we did. Every morning we'd open the paper. There would be the box scores. And as you know, in those days before we had all the other media, the box scores were short stories, basically, in their own right. You could tell a whole story about the game reading the box scores. So that's where my father and I met. And I think a lot of us did that as well. So that's one reason I wanted to explore that possibility. And the second reason is, I think, again, here's my playwright coming out, but I think Mickey is a tragic hero in the traditional sense of tragic hero. Oedipus, Creon, Hamlet, those guys, because he rose to a great height. He fell from that position, but he ultimately came to understand why. And at the end of his life, he has some great interviews, I'm sure you've all seen them, where he said, don't be like Mickey, don't be like me. I was a lousy role model. I think he finally came to understand the difference between being a hero and being a role model. And he realized he was a great hero to a lot of people. He wasn't a particularly good role model. So I think that's an interesting story in itself.
I think it's great that you use the word Genesis, because I think that this book stands out in comparison to so many of the other books because of that simple fact. You kind of focusing in on the beginning and the end of his life.
Yeah, it was dirt poor. Remember, we're talking about Oklahoma and the Depression. And that was that his father was Mutt, of course. Mutt's dream was to turn him into a baseball player. Mutt thought, I only know how to do two things. I know how to mine and I know how to play baseball. And I don't want Mickey to live his life down in the mines like I have. I want him to be a baseball player. And that's what they worked on. It was they didn't have running water in the house for much of the time. They didn't even have electricity for much of the time. It really was this dirt poor to the famous and wealthy man.
Howard, Mickey's growing up during the Great Depression. I mean, that's also has to shape his life at that particular point.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a tough upbringing. And the interesting thing partly about that is Mutt's dream was to have him to be a catcher. He wanted Mickey to be a catcher. Mutt saw the catcher as the leader of the team. He was the guy that saw the entire field. He called the pitches. He yelled who should take pop-ups when they occurred in the infield. And he had to be a tough guy. He took balls in the dirt and foul balls back. And Mutt was a tough guy. He wanted Mickey to be a catcher, but Mickey was too small in those days. He was often playing with kids older anyway because of his talent. And Mutt really resisted turning Mickey first into an infielder. And then when Casey Stengel saw him play the infield for 5 minutes and said, hey, kid, run out to the outfield and take some balls.
I think it's often ironic too, Howard, because so many times when they discuss the career of Mickey Mantle, even here in the Bronx, for all of his incredible accomplishments, for all of the records, I mean, even hitting 500 plus home runs, a lot of times the conversation about him usually centers around what could have been. I mean, the expectation that he should have been the guy that hit 700 plus home runs, that he should have been the guy with even more triple crowns. For all the things that he did, it seems like it was just never enough because of the expectation of how great he should have been.
Yeah, my goodness. You come up to a team and you have to replace Gehrig, Ruth, DiMaggio. I mean, it's not like replacing Andy Pafko. These are great players, and he was expected to do that. And he was never very secure in his own skin. I mean, we think of him as being this very confident guy. He wasn't particularly confident. He faked it in a way, and of course he drank partly to cover that. But he also had the injury issue. I don't know if you want to get into that, but he was kicked in the shin in an early.
Almost had his leg amputated.
Yeah, they took him to the hospital, and the doctors told his parents, "We got to take the leg off." And Mutt, who was a tough guy, just absolutely melted on the spot. But Mickey's mother, Lavelle, she was a firebrand. She stood up to the doctors and she said, "You ain't taking that leg off today. You ain't taking it off tomorrow. And you ain't taking it off next year." And obviously they didn't take it off. But that effect of that, it was osteomyelitis. The effect of the osteomyelitis, which they treated with hundreds of shots of penicillin, which was brand new on the market in those days. He was really fortunate that it had just been discovered, if you will. And the very little bit that they had, most of it went to the Army for treating wounds. But the Oklahoma hospital in Oklahoma City happened to have some, and they shot him up a lot. But the leg was never the same, and that was the leg that he ultimately injured in the stepping on the sprinkler and all of that. But he was never 100%. But he played tough, but he was never 100%.
And to a large degree, too, Howard, in my opinion, which I think the book really kind of nails, is that this is really the American dream. Mickey Mantle's the American dream at that time for a parent that's struggling with a job like mining and during the Great Depression, and basically hoping that his son could have a much better future than him.
Mickey always tried to live up to that dream. I think his entire life, running in the back of his mind was, can I please Mutt? Would Mutt have loved me for doing this? Would he have appreciated what I'm doing? And I think that absolutely ran through his life, but his mother too also. I mean, we sort of forget that she was a strong influence in his life. She loved baseball. She followed baseball. She knew baseball.
I think obviously, like you said, the beginnings of someone's story is really so important for the whole narrative.
I use in the beginning of the book the quote from T.S. Eliot, "In the end is my beginning, in the beginning is my end." And I think that's really, really telling. And I think if you see Mickey in the hospital, in Baylor Hospital, and the doctors giving him the liver transplant, and then people just going crazy. A lot of people said he didn't deserve it. Mickey always said, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. So many of the men died from lung disease. His father ultimately, his grandfather. Well, many of the Mantle men in the Mantle family died from lung diseases. He thought he would too. When you think you're not going to live to 50, it's got to change your perspective, I think, on life.
Yeah, I think it's incredible too, because growing up, my mom would always tell stories about Mickey Mantle. She happened to be there. She lived in the shadows of Yankee Stadium, so she was there for his very first game in 1951. And the Yankees at that time brought up two players. They brought up Mantle and another young fella named Gil McDougald, who became the Rookie of the Year that year. And I think, most people know that story about Mantle wearing number 6, trying to follow in the footsteps of Joe D. and coming up and really struggling. And Gil, of course, would go on to be Rookie of the Year. Mantle gets sent down and then comes back and has, arguably the career of one of the greatest Yankees of all time.
Yeah, no question about it. I think also a lot of people know the story that he was about to quit when they sent him back to the minors, and Mutt drove up to where he was and said, "Okay, pack your bags, Mickey, we're going home, and we got a job for you down in the mine." And that partly convinced Mickey, no, maybe I'm going to give it one more shot.
Well, Howard, it's really been a treat and a pleasure to have you on the show and to talk about the book. And, fans can go to your website, howardburman.com, or they can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and pick up a copy, because just a great read about Mickey Mantle's career.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on.
You bet. My pleasure.
Welcome back. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee, and our next guest is the director and executive producer of the film HAPI. He shows us with a preview of what we can expect, and we welcome him, Taaqiy Grant. So tell us, this is not your first film, right?
No, actually, HAPI is the third, and it's, although they're very different, the three films are similarly connected to one another. The first one was Nubia, The Untold Story. We had the opportunity to do that in 2007.
Yeah.
And then we did something called the Tekken, which is the ancient Egyptian name for what's referred to as an obelisk, or the Washington Monument for those who are not familiar with the word obelisk. Reason why we chose that title and the subtitle, Uncovering the Influence of Ancient Egypt, because when you go to a place like Washington, D.C., you'll see all this iconography, like the pillared temples of the Jefferson and Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, which are all very similarly connected to the architecture in ancient Egypt. So that the founding fathers of this country used that secret science to develop this nation.
And you can see that if you get that book, The Power of Myth. I was reading something about that. But then you uncover a lot of it in your film. Yeah,
so we were there on 16th Street, Pennsylvania Avenue, and going back and forth between the different key locations in DC, like Lafayette Park, as well as Malcolm X or Meridian Hill Park. all these various locations in DC where you can actually see, like I said, once again, the architecture that was taken from ancient Egypt, as well as the various Freemason lodges that are there, which is the connection with Egypt.
Yeah.
When you look on
And
the back of
the
dollar,
founding fathers were Freemasons.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see where they got that information from. So it's essential for us to understand this, because it's one thing as people of color, we look at our history and our legacy sometimes as being demonized, whereas these other people are looking at it and empowering themselves with it. So, you know, it was just really, we didn't have to go very far to really think about a topic, something to really discuss. If you really want to empower yourself, look no further than yourself. Or basically, how do you say, look at that man in the mirror.
Yeah.
And that's what the Tekken and all these films are. These films are a retrospect of people looking at them, as Black people looking at themselves in the mirror, you know, and appreciating what you see when you look in the mirror.
Was Michael Jackson talking about that when he put the song out?
Well, I think it was more of accountability, but this is more so, you know, like Malcolm said, they taught us to hate Black, and as thus Black people run away from themselves, and everyone else is secretly running towards it, whether they're bathing on the beach, getting suntans or what have you, or cultural appropriation, you know, through our various geniuses that Black people have developed. But one of the things we need to know is that culturally, historically, we have a very rich and vibrant culture, and we need to look no further than ourselves for the truth.
Taaqiy, what inspired you to put these films together?
Well, to be honest with you, Dr. Lee, one of the things that happened, it happened very organically. You know, we were traveling in and throughout Egypt and the Sudan. In fact, in 2004, I had the pleasure of going with Dr. Jeffries to Nubia. When I say Nubia, I mean Upper Nubia, the Sudan aspect, from Khartoum all the way to north to what they refer to as Dongola. We spent the week there, and I'm just there with the camera as I would normally be. Not really, you know, skilled in any videography or anything like that, but just documenting the experience. And as I came back, I realized that the story was untold. People weren't talking about it. There's twice as many pyramids in the Sudan that is in Egypt. And it's a part of our history or our legacy that the history books are just totally written out. So I got in a conversation, but it's like, hey, why don't we do something with this footage? So that one just started based on data and that we collected in the trips. Then the next one,
go ahead.
The next one, the Tekken, that was a little more planned, but the initial aspect of just doing the films just started with traveling. I have a tour company, HAPI Tours. We've been traveling back and forth around the world, particularly to the now, for about 20-something years. And all those trips were documented in some form or some fashion. So I've had tons and tons of mini DV tapes and photographs and things like that. And we started compiling that information, putting it together, and that's how the films developed.
Yeah, now how did that make you feel? You're in these areas in Africa. Did you get some type of feeling come over your body?
Well, yes.
Ancestors calling, or you got that personal connection with your ancestors?
You know, Dr. Lee, that calling started before we even got on a plane.
Got it.
You know, that calling started from the 9th grade when I read Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. You know, when I read that book, I was like, wow, that book gave me something I didn't have previous to that, and that was Black heroes.
Yeah.
Being a young man growing up here in the States, you know, my heroes, to be honest with you, they were white.
There's some Black heroes and sheroes.
Right, right. So when
you got to pick this
book,
up. I put this one together. You got to pick this up.
No, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I see it back there on the bookshelf also. But
oh yeah, okay.
So that, like I said, that book. You know, I remember being a young man and young boy, and Star Wars and superheroes and American historical figures. Well, those are the people I looked up to.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, my last name being Grant, I had an affinity for Ulysses, you know.
Oh. And
I remember that very vividly. So the Civil War was a big, you know, I love the topic. Yeah. And after I read Destruction of Black Civilization, I was like, wow, this is the stuff they don't teach you in school.
Yeah, it brings things together, doesn't it?
It brings things together, yes. And I remember going to, I had a 9th grade English teacher, and I told her, don't call me, you know, my other name. And I was like, you know, now I'm going to be referred to as the people in the book. And I picked names of key Black historical figures, the characters that I wanted to look up to, and those were my heroes, and I haven't looked back since. So that's where it
good.
started. The ancestral calling came from that point. You know,
I want to thank Marvin Holland and Senator Sanders and some of the other people that are out there uptown in Harlem for introducing us, for bringing us together. Because you put the work in, you did a lot of work, and we want to thank you. And when can we see your film? Where can we see it? How can we get in touch with it?
So the HAPI film is premiering Saturday, August 29th at 7 p.m. You can go to www.hapifilm.com. That's HAPIFILM.com. The tickets are $25. And tickets also include access to an extraordinary panel discussion by key cast members. Some of the cast members include people like Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Brother Fadishi, Dr. Solange Ashby, Dr. Patricia Newton, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, Dr. Zahi Howes from Egypt, Dr. Bruce Williams. It's a very extraordinary cast of people, not just some.
The doctors are in the house.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sure.
And HAPI is a snapshot of economic history from the dawn of civilization until today. So what it is 360 degrees of economic history. It starts today dealing with our current socio-economic situations, and it goes back through time to examine the past. And as it moves forward through the past, it comes back full circle to today. And one of the very important things about HAPI, the last segment of the film deals exclusively with solutions. You know, what are some of the things that we can implement today to change our current situation? Like last Saturday, we had the Community Empowerment Day. That is an example of what we refer to as the HAPI movement. What are the solutions of things that we can implement to correct the wrongs?
Well, where can we go to find out more about this? Because our time is running out. We could talk all day about this because you have your wealth of information. So social media, website?
Yes, absolutely. So we're very present on most of the more popular social media platforms. That's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Everything is the same thing, HAPI Film, HAPIFILM, 2 words. You can also go to the website and sign up for the newsletter. We have a monthly newsletter that comes out. Again, hapifilm.com, HAPIFILM, one word.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can also sign up and register for the screening, which will be, again, Saturday, August 29th at 7 p.m.
I'm happy. You happy?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. I would, if we were live out in the crowd, I would say, give them a big round of applause, everybody. Happy. The HAPI film and all that stuff. Taaqiy, thank you. Taaqiy Grant, everybody. He put it together. He's the director and executive producer of HAPI. We appreciate you. We love the work that you're doing, and keep it up, man. You're enlightening a whole lot of people. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. All right.
God bless. Stay safe.
Take care.
And I'll see you soon.
Okay. Peace.
All right. All right. We'll take a break right here. I've got more Open next. Hey, thank you, thank you, thank you, and we appreciate you. Thank you for letting us share in this space and time with you. You can continue watching Open for the continued coverage of what we're doing here on Open. Always remember this: what you are is God's gift to you, and what you make of yourself is your gift to God. So choose your choice and let your choice control your choosing. Remember, whether you say you can or you can't, either way you're right. Stay safe, stay home, stay blessed. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee. For all of us here at BronxNet, have a safe and enjoyable day. We love you all. I'll see you over 107.5 WBLS. Peace.